We were talking some New Orleans Saints inside the headlines, T, and Eli Apple has agreed to terms with the Carolina Panthers. We announced that the Saints have signed a new offensive lineman in James Hurst. They waived wide receiver Tim White. Hurst was speaking on NewOrleansSaints.com. We gave you some of the sound inside of your headlines that you can catch, brought to you by Carriages. But some other news yesterday around the New Orleans Saints that kind of got dragged into it, kind of like we did with the Annie Apple situation. Yeah. Was DeAndre Hopkins was speaking to ESPN.com and was asked about now working with Kyler Murray and where he fits into the league as far as the wide receiver pecking order. And Hopkins said Thursday on Jalen and Jacoby, I definitely think I'm the best. I know I'm the best. Mike's my boy, talking about Mike Thomas. I love Mike, but he knows if I had Drew Brees my whole career that what the numbers would be. Julio Jones knows if I had Matt Ryan my whole career, that's my boy. I trained with Julio, too. He knows what the numbers would be as well. Well, Hopkins went on to say, those guys are definitely blessed to be in a position where their whole career they had a Pro Bowl quarterback, quarterback that they spent multiple seasons with. But I don't complain. I don't make excuses. I go out there and work.
Look, let's be clear. I get where DeAndre Hopkins is coming from. He's a definite top 5 receiver in the league. It's why we all made so much fun of Bill O'Brien for the move when they made it. He had that crazy year a couple of years ago where he didn't have a single drop on the entire year, and that was while being top 5 in catches. So, look, DeAndre Hopkins is an incredible wide receiver. But as you're going to see after I lay out these numbers, Mike Thomas is unparalleled. And I mean that quite literally. Mike Thomas is 4 years into the league, and the amount of NFL records that he has already to his name are absolutely absurd. And they speak to something greater than just the quarterback being the guy that makes it. And so let's get into some of it. Show you what I'm talking about. I've been comparing like the last 3 years against each other. Just to give you a little snapshot that takes out Thomas's rookie year. And that's the other thing that shouldn't be lost in all of this. DeAndre Hopkins, I think, is going into year 8 or 9 overall. Maybe look that up, Jordy.
Yep.
Mike Thomas just finished year 4. So you're talking about a guy in Hopkins who should be entering his prime. You're talking about a guy in Mike Thomas who he's technically still at the beginning of his career. Let's look at the last 3 years. So just, okay. Yep.
Drafted in 13.
Okay, math.
College kids?
Yeah, something like 8. Somewhere around 8. I don't know. You know, it gets weird because like the 13 year, 13, 14, 15, 16. Anyway, he's in the prime. Technically, Mike Thomas still not his prime. An immediate shot against Hopkins' case was pointed out by Kat Terrell on Twitter, who showed that, well, last year, Mike Thomas's best single game performance actually came with Teddy Bridgewater. Okay, so that's a guy that he's not used to playing with, at least not in the regular season game. And if you know Drew Brees, he's notorious for not giving up reps in practice either. And that's a guy who is not Drew Brees. And yet still against Tampa Bay, Mike Thomas had 11 catches for 182 yards and 2 scores last year. Over the last 3 years, DeAndre Hopkins has been targeted 487 times. He has 307 grabs for 4,100 yards and 31 scores. Very good.
And let that be noted that those 3 years are with Deshaun Watson at quarterback.
Yep. Yeah, and year 1 he tore his ACL, but year 2 and 3, I mean, he's a Pro Bowl, good statistical quarterback.
Watson and Hopkins played 38 games together. Hopkins caught 268 passes for 25 touchdowns for just over 3,300 yards from Deshaun Watson.
And so last 3 years, Hopkins 487 targets, 307 catches. Mike Thomas 481 targets, 378 catches. Almost 4,400 yards, 23 scores. So a couple things to know. Hopkins does have 8 more scores over the last 3 years. That's actually maybe one of the quirks of Mike Thomas's game is for all the production doesn't always translate into dominant red zone production. Thomas has more yards, but I think the key thing is that Thomas has been targeted 6 less times, and yet, despite that, has 71 more catches. He's been targeted less, and he almost has like 71 catches for the normal NFL wide receiver is a great year.
Yeah.
It's a year that will get you paid. He has a full season's worth of an advantage that he's built up over the last 3 years. You look at things like catch rate, which is the percentage of time that you catch the ball when you're targeted. He has consistently been the top wide receiver, consistently being Hopkins in that regard. Consistently higher yards per target, who's being more efficient statistically. But here's the deal. I threw a lot of numbers at you right now. Throw that all out the window. Because as I said, the bigger thing to me is you have to just look at, when you just look at what Mike Thomas has done thus far in the NFL, it's so unparalleled that it speaks. Like, yes, Drew Brees, Sean Payton, laying in this situation, and absolutely pushed him to those unparalleled heights. But here's the deal. Like, yes, Mike Thomas doesn't get those numbers without Drew Brees. DeAndre Hopkins doesn't get those numbers with Drew Brees. I don't think anybody gets those numbers with Drew Brees. Look at his career trajectory. Talking about Mike Thomas here. Okay? He from his rookie year to his second year, he had 12 more catches. Then he gets 21 more catches on top of that. Then he gets 24 more catches on top of that. He jumped up over 100 yards from rookie year, then 160, then over 320 yards into year 4. And it's wild. Like, surely now he has to take a step back. Just, I mean, the laws of numbers demand it. But here are the NFL records that I was alluding to. Most catches in a single season. Most catches to your first 2 seasons, 3 seasons, 4 seasons. The most consecutive games with 4+ catches. You want to talk about producing on a day in, day out basis? Mike Thomas has 43 games in a row in which he caught at least 4 balls. That's unbelievable. He has the most receiving yards ever through his first 4 seasons in the NFL with over 5,000. He has the most seasons ever with over 120 catches already. He's only been here for 4. He's tied with 3 other players. He's only tied with one other player, I'm guessing Marvin Harrison, for most seasons with over 125 catches. He's got the fewest. It took him the fewest amount of games to get 300 career catches, the fewest amount of games to get 400 career catches. I mean, he is this so often I can be hyperbolic. I can exaggerate. I can say things that probably aren't true because I just get sucked up in the hype. But look at this, at what I just read. He is quite literally, you hear about people rewriting the record books. Mike Thomas is rewriting the wide receiver record books. I mean, you could be talking about a guy who, when it's all said and done, I mean, he's on pace to smash Rice and all these other guys. And maybe, look, one of the things about that is Jerry Rice played forever, right? He will have to play a long time, and longevity is the key of being the greatest at anything. But just when you look at these numbers, man, the gaps between Hopkins and Thomas, while the quarterback play is a definite factor, it does not explain why the gaps are so large, and it does not explain, and it should not be used to take away from the unparalleled success that Mike Thomas has. And so if you're listening out there, whether if you're a Louisiana football fan, appreciate what you're witnessing. A couple of years ago, I was joking about how nobody has better kickers in the country right now than Louisiana. When you looked at, it was like Tracy, Lutz, Moorhead, was Von Rosenberg killing that year, I believe. Like, either way, the kicking was outstanding, right? Well, it's a little more exciting this time around. Nobody, and you're talking about college to pro, has a better wide receiver 1-2 punch than getting to watch Jamar Chase on Saturdays, who we can get to again. He's in the news again as you round up 20 different mock drafts, NOLA.com did, and he went top 10 in all 20 of them.
First wide receiver off the board in all of them.
So you get to watch Jamar Chase on Saturdays, and then you get to watch Mike Thomas on Sundays. Appreciate these times.
Both of those guys have set the bar for themselves where they have an expectation from the viewer that you know they're going to produce.
Yeah.
If you ever see a game now where Thomas or Chase doesn't have a bold stat line or some big impact play on the game, you ask what happened.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the type of athletes that they have grown and developed into right before our eyes. Thomas more developed than Chase because he's doing it on the elite level. The year that Chase had last season leaves everybody waiting and wanting more and just kind of thinking what it could look like next season because of how good last year was. We talked about it yesterday. Chase is one of those athletes where his numbers may go down. They probably will go down. I think definitely will go down this upcoming season, but he'll have a bigger impact on the game because of the attention that everybody is going to have to show him every week. Mike Thomas gets that attention on Sundays and still gives you those numbers every single
I mean, that's
week.
And that's the other thing to point out is that everybody's game planning to stop Mike Thomas.
Well, I mean, how long is
Holy
the storyline?
Like, who's the other wide receiver? They have nobody.
How long has the storyline been number 2? Who's the number 2 wide receiver for the Saints? Are they going to draft a number 2? Are they going to get in free agency and try to get somebody that can take the attention off of Thomas? And after watching 5 weeks of a documentary that was centered around Michael Jordan and
Yep.
Thomas being a Michael Jordan inked athlete, somebody that is sponsored by the Jordan brand. I can't think of a modern day athlete that I watch these, in sports today that is more wired like Jordan was, and just the way that Thomas competes. I mean, you see
he's
him
always
out-
mad on Twitter.
always
He's
mad.
always like he has a chip on his shoulder where it's like same thing as Jordan, right? Somebody looks at him the wrong way, and it's like, all right, that goes in the book. Like you're on the list.
You're on the list. And he plays mad on Sundays. Every time he catches a pass, whether it's a first down, a screen pass, a long route for a touchdown, he is up celebrating in the opponent's face, letting them know that it's going to be all day. He's going to be there all day
I mean,
long.
just imagine you come out as a rookie, you get 92 grabs for 1,100 yards. Like, damn, it's a good year. How are you going to follow up that? You bump up to 104 the next year for 1,200 yards. All right, we're getting better. Then how are you going to beat that? You go up to 125 catches. Then how are you going to beat that? You go up to 149.
But
Like,
you know
what does
what-
he do next?
You know what the most impressive number out of all of them is? Is $100 million.
Yeah.
He got $100 million, and he
then
had
he
his
made
best
that jump.
season.
Yeah.
I mean, like, come on, man. This guy is the most elite. He is the best. Forget the numbers. Throw the numbers out. I mean, if you want to put the numbers of Hopkins, Julio, and Mike Thomas side by side and
Thomas
try
wins.
and try to decide who's best, we can play that game. But if you just turn on the film, which one are you taking by their mentality, by the way he competes, by the way he just plays the game? It's 13 black and gold all day.
And I like DeAndre Hopkins. Like I said, top 5, top 3, probably easily. He's incredible. But Mike Thomas is unparalleled.
Yeah.